Nicolás, cuando vos me digas yo inicio, me imagino que ya está permitido que pueda compartir pantalla a Max, ¿no?
Ya está transmitiendo, así que cuando quieran.
Bueno, bueno gracias a todas y a todos por conectarse. Estamos iniciando el ciclo de charlas del Festival de Arquitectura, Diseño y Ciudad, organizado por la Oficina de Innovación Colectiva de la Facultad de Arquitectura, Diseño y Urbanismo de Montevideo. Estamos súper contentos de tener a Max Bon como nuestro primer conferencista. Max pertenece a un colectivo francés que conocimos hace algún tiempo, en el 2018, y estábamos como con muchas ganas de poder hablar un poco con Max, porque en realidad el colectivo ETC tiene unas prácticas espaciales que están muy ligadas, digamos, a algunas de las cosas que estamos haciendo eh, en, el, en el proceso que estamos llevando adelante en el ex mercado modelo. Y es interesante, digamos, poder saber un poco cuáles son las experiencias, digamos, que a partir de esas prácticas espaciales que hace ETC se pueden cruzar un poco con nuestro medio. El colectivo ETC es una organización sin fines de lucro, con sede en Marsella y en Bron, que fue creado en el 2010, y digamos que dirige un poco sus energías y colabora con comunidades locales para abordar cuestiones que a nosotros nos interesan mucho. Por eso es un poco ese paralelismo de las prácticas que tienen que ver con el uso de los espacios públicos en el entorno urbano y sobre todo también con la recuperación de algunos espacios en desuso. Colectivo ETC está compuesto por 6 arquitectos que trabajan en el campo de la arquitectura, del urbanismo, del arte y del diseño, y experimenta, digamos, con formas alternativas de producir espacios para personas que trabajan, digamos, en soluciones sociales y ecológicas. Max es arquitecto, pertenece a este colectivo, también ha sido cofundador, digamos, de este colectivo, pero de otros, como el Hyper-Ville Edition o el Super-Ville Network, también del Ambassade du Tour de Marsella, y realmente entendemos que las prácticas que ha llevado ATC, que las conocemos porque además están muy vinculadas a una red global de otros colectivos que trabajan en este sentido, puede ser un aporte interesante para el festival. Es nuestra primera conferencia de un ciclo de virtuales, que van a ser 5 conferencias virtuales y 8 conferencias presenciales. Así que, Max, te agradecemos muchísimo que nos acompañes hoy. Es un gustazo para la usina y para la facultad de tenerte acá. Te escuchamos.
Okay, hello guys. Thank you for inviting me today. I'm very pleased to be here. So thank you for this nice introduction. And basically, I will try to present what we are doing right now in Collectif ETC and talk a little bit about our story. Like Sergio said, we are born 12 years ago now, so we have a story to talk about. And at the end of the presentation, I will develop and talk about one project. We highlight one project we are doing right now in the countryside of France, talking about an old factory that we are building a new project inside with the local community. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them at the end of the presentation. So now maybe I can share a document that I created. I hope you saw it. You see it. So yes, I can start right now the presentation. So in Collectif ETC, we defined ourselves as a group of architects, but also builders, craftsmen, and artists. We develop all our projects with intense moments of creation and collective construction. Building collectively allows us as architects to approach our project from a concrete point of view, with real transformations of the space and by strongly including the inhabitants and the local actors directly concerned by the project. So here's some example. So for 10 years now, we deal with open constructions workshops for new public spaces, for example. But we made also more complex construction workshops or craftsmen's type workshops. So it's less open to a global public, but we try to create inside these workshops some training times, training workshops open to a little group of people. And for example, how to weld, learn how to learn new tools. And we are now, for 3 years now, experimenting some other artistic practice with, again, some training workshops, like making pottery in the public space, serigraphy, or sewing workshops. We'll talk about this later. In ETC, we have no hierarchy. We tried for years to have an horizontal management and a self-governance. So everybody for years now has to deal with all the part of the global projects, and everyone is responsible for it. Everyone has one voice, one vote, and everyone has to deal with the strategic choices from the big choices to the little choices as which color we want to use for the painting of the wood for our last building. Today, after 10 years of this collective work, we created some new tools, collective tools, in order to have a much more professional approach. And but still, we have long discussions, so a lot of energy in order to have a collective approach of the work of architects. Now we are 6 people in Collectif ETC, and we have the minimum salary for 6 years now. So we are working 100% into Collectif ETC, but our activity remains very fragile, and the economic our long-term economy is not assured for sure. So for 12 years, the group evolved a lot. So we started at 12. And now we are 6. A lot of people have a new lives now, but a lot of people came into the Collectif ETC with various competencies as architects, urbanists, administrators, graphic designers. And this new blood and this new energy was very good for the collective in order to have some input every year of new people, and new idea, also new desires. So these pictures show also the evolution of the group, but also it showed that we like also to work with a lot of different peoples, with other collaborators on each project. It can be professionals, but it also can be students with their professors, or it can be also local communities. So ETC is not only the core, it's always more than the little core. So just about the story, our story starts in the School of Architecture, so in Strasbourg, in France. We all meet there. We partying a lot, and during schools we wanted to do something else. So after the graduations and after working 1 or 2 years in studios of architecture, we decided to stop and to spend 1 year volunteering and creating a big project called Le Détour de France, which is a project of a 1 year Tour de France by bike with 12 people, in order to meet all the French people, all the French actors or groups working in the field of citizen design build projects, involving inhabitants inside the urban or architecture projects, and talking about empowerment. And at the end of this detour, we decided to create a big meeting with all the people we met. So we made this meeting 10 years ago with 100 100 people. And it was the first French meeting of the start of this network around these topics. And we called this event Superville. And now every 2 years, we are organizing it in order to meet all the actors, in order to share our experiences and to find alternative solutions and to create an alternative power. Also, at the end of this big project, we decided to write a book, and we created a publishing house called Hyperville, which is still existing today. And thanks to this publishing house, we talk about a lot of our practices. We wrote a lot of articles dealing with these subjects. We also help people to write books and to publish it. So it's another, it's a parallel work of what ETC does, but it's remaining very important for us to talk about what we are doing and to have a reflection about it. After the Tour de France, for 5 years, we still continue to have a nomadic life, making projects all over France and Europe. But we also settled in few places. So we spent 8 months in a little country, in a little village in the countryside of France. We spent 1 year in an abandoned building in a medium-sized town in France. And we also spent 1.5 years in a 60 square meters flat in Marseille in 12 people. So it was very, very strong community life. And after 6 years, we decided to stop this nomadic life and to settle in one place. And we decided to settle in Marseille, which is a big city in the south of France. And we settled in a working place in a poor neighborhood there, and we spent 5 years there. Now I just want to, I don't want to talk about our story, but I prefer to talk about what we are dealing with today. And in this very difficult economical, ecological, and social context, it's remained very important for us to defend a kind of activism in our activity. Western democracies are dead. We can't rely anymore on governments to protect citizens from a social and environmental point of view. Big companies and many stars architects are destroying the world by building without taking into account ecological processes in architecture. So we try for years and we struggle to imagine and propose alternative solutions, modest and very local, but very concrete. And we want to stand with citizens and local communities who are struggling for a better collective life. Today, we try to help these many civil society initiatives who promote solutions adapted to the social and ecological needs for all. I also want to talk about what is to be an architect, and maybe we can also not be an architect. So for the past 20 years, few writers, architects, researchers, and more recently collectives of architects everywhere in the world have been questioning the architecture professions, its posture, and its role through practice. They propose to reinvent the architectural project in its political, social, and cultural dimensions by taking an interest in the place of the inhabitants in the making of its common spaces. Inhabitants as non-expert actors of the projects, but with a real key role. So we believe strongly in an architecture that takes into account long-term experimentations with the right to fail As you see in these pictures, it's a furniture we tried to do in earth, and it was destroyed after 1 month. We also want to promote, we believe into an architecture that promotes solidarity and exchange of knowledges from everyone. And we also believe now in a new way of learning architectures at schools with future architects that are much more politicized and with less artistic ego trip. So we also, for 10 years now, we made a lot of different and various projects. So projects from small scales to large scales. So here it's like a very few selections of them, but for years we dealt with a lot of public spaces projects with inhabitants in neighborhoods in the countrysides or in big cities. So here, for example, it's in Paris. We worked 3 years on the Panthéon public space. We removed the municipality wanted to remove all the cars and to think on a project and to propose a project for 3 years, testing some furnitures during 3 years. We also deals with a lot of micro architecture projects, like you see in these pictures. So for us, it's how you can design with people and work with craftsmen and to learn from them some new techniques and old techniques. We also deals with some projects dealing with scenography. So here you see a picture of the French pavilion of the Biennale of Architecture of Venezia in 2018. And we had the chance to work in the French pavilion and to propose a project from reused materials only, and talking about third places led by local communities in France. And we are also for 3 years now dealing with more big projects, so more architectural scales projects around the renovation of old buildings and how you can transform a building with local community and in organizing small workshops, construction workshops every year, and to have a little by little a transformation of a space. Like I said at the beginning, in Collectif ETC for years now, we try to develop various tools. So we start with building tools, more wood and steel tools, wood and steel constructions tools. But now we develop other tools like serigraphy, like ceramic, like podcast and radio tools, and movie tools. So for us, the movie, for example, is a very strong tools to use in and on our projects in order to gather more people around the table, to gather more people around discussions, and yes, to bring everyone around the table. So people who are not very okay with building stuff, they can also join for these creation moments. So yes, after 8 or 10 years of practice around public spaces, as I said, we decided to have more and more interest into the big scales or the architecture scale. And we started to deal with how with the local community you can transform a space. So for example, here it's a old garage in Marseille, and with some friends and the local community, we transform it into a new space for us, for walking inside, but also a new space for the neighborhood, a space who can invite people inside in order to make some meetings, but also making some workshops and have some discussions all together about the neighborhood. So it took 1.5 years to transform it, and we spent 5 years inside this beautiful space we left last year. But we also worked in other spaces like that. So for example, here we worked with an association dealing with diseased people who have a big problems, physical problems, and they ask us to help them to build furniture and signage inside. So we spent 2 months working with disabled people on this new furniture for them, for example. So this local community work with them was very intense because we had to work with these people. Another example is you see on this picture, it's a whole factory inside Marseille. So a big one, 5,000 square meters. And the city doesn't know how to do with this building. So we proposed with a lot of local associations from the neighborhood to go inside and to create a project from nothing. And 5 years ago, we deal with the municipality to have the keys, and we started to transform the place with artists, with architects, but also with local association dealing with food issues, for example. And for 5 years now, this project is going on, and we are still inside, and we are still finding a way.
Sorry, Max.
Yes.
You hear me? You hear me, Max?
Yes.
Okay. We see only the first slide. And it's not in full screen. Okay.
You saw it now?
Yeah, and full screen, please. It's possible. Okay. Okay.
So you didn't see nothing.
No.
Okay. So that's it. So here are some pictures of public spaces. Like I said, we made some micro architecture, some workshop sessions, some ceramic workshops we made with local communities. Here is some pictures of the evolution of the group. So we were 10, we were 12, and now we are 6, but we are also working with a lot of various people. So you see in these pictures all the time on each project, all the people involved. Le Détour de France, as I said, it's a 1-year bike tour dealing with meeting people around France and creating a big network in France. We also, as I said, creating a publishing house, Hyperville. So created some fanzines, some websites, and writing some scientific articles. No life. So we lived in little village in Marseille in a abandoned building. Our political actions. So as I said, we want to have a strong activism inside Collectif ETC. We are struggling against big companies or big stars architects who are not thinking about ecological issues inside their projects. Yes, as I said, we are dealing with a wide range of projects. So from public spaces in Paris, for example, micro architecture here, the scenography in Venice, and more architectural projects like we see on these pictures. But also we develop a lot of various tools. So serigraphy tools, ceramic tools, radio tools and movie tools. So it allows us to bring more people around our projects, people who don't like to build, for example. And so we have all these tools now and these skills inside Collectif ETC in order to develop them in various projects. As I said, we worked for years in public spaces issues, but now we are more around the transformation of abandoned spaces. So here you see the old garage we transform into a place open to the neighborhood. So we transform it during 2 years, and it's still existing now in Marseille. Here it's a place we open with an association dealing with people with strong physically problems, and we build some furnitures and some signage with friends, artist friends. So here it's the whole factory. We go inside 5 years ago, and the municipality of Marseille allows us to create a project inside. So for 5 years now, we are working with 100 people from the neighborhood, local association, artists, architects, young professionals, young students also, and we try to develop a project inside and outside and to be useful for the neighborhood and for the territory. Here it's a old windmill in a little village in France, and the idea is to transform it into a new place for farm food and to talk about farm food. So it's a new project, and we are thinking about this project with a lot of people. So there is a lot of sessions, conception sessions with inhabitants. And here you see an old hospital in the countryside, and the people abandoned. It was abandoned for 10 years now, and the municipality didn't know how to deal with it. So with some inhabitants of the territory and some local association, they decided to ask the municipality to go inside and to propose a project for the territory. So now there is 70 people working inside, and we help them to organize, to self-organize, to have a work on the governance of the project, and also about the spaces, which spaces we renovated at first, and blah blah blah. So it's a project with low budget, of course. There is no money, so the local community finds money, and when they have money, they can do some transformations. So we are helping them with strategic tools in order to know what we can do today, what we can do this year, what we can do in 3 years. So we try to do that now. So as I said to you, I will speak about one project dealing with this new way of doing Collectif ETC now. So this place is called La Place des Possibles, so place of possibles. It's a whole of 1,000 square meters in the countryside of France, and it was an old textile factory. And in the 70s, it was closed, and for years it was abandoned. And local associations of the village bought it 5 years ago, and it's an association dealing with poor families and young people who are lost, and they need to have to integrate the society again. And so they asked us 3 years ago to help them to transform this place with other people, so with these families, these young people, but also with inhabitants, and local associations, local municipalities. So how you put everyone around the table and you try to figure out what we want, what we can do inside the building in terms of architecture, but also in terms of actions and projects. So we develop a lot of various sessions of discussions involving everyone. We build models, we created a lot of various tools. It takes a long time process to integrate everyone. We also started to make some workshops, building workshops with straws in order to test some uses inside the factory. We also worked with some photographic tools in order to gather the community together, because they didn't know each other well. So we decided to create these conviviality moments in order to share stories between us and to create a strong local community. And after 1 year of work, we were agreed to this strategic plan. Like I said, what we can do today, what we can do in 1 year, in 3 years, and in 10 years. So what we need to achieve, what money we need to have to do that. So, and after 1 year, we succeed with the association who deal with the project. We succeeded to have 100,000 euros to start renovating a part of the factory. So here we put our hat of our architect hat, and we draw some plans, because we need to do it in order to invite people inside these new spaces. And in order to do this transformation, we organized some workshops, constructions time, with everybody who wants to participate it. So there were young people arriving in the territory, but also all the employees of the factory. So it was like 3 times 2 weeks workshops. So a lot of stuff to do. Every morning and every night we take the coffee time in order to exchange ideas and talk about the journey, the day we spend. So like I said, it's about demolition, construction, like craftsman work, but we learn everything. So we did everything by ourselves, from electricity to carpentry to, yes, everything. So it takes 2 years to renovate 200 square meters. So it's a long time process. And also inside these construction workshops, we always like to organize some events, some debates, inviting friends to talk about their projects, have a conviviality moments. So we invite cooks to cook for everyone during the week, or have a proper dinner at night. So as I said, in our project, we always want to have these conviviality moments in order to gather everyone around the table, around a good meal. And also party times that are very important also to gather the community and to always talk about the project. So it's always, we are organizing these events always for the project. It's cool for us, but it's also for the project. And as I said before, as we have new skills now, we always develop in parallel of the construction workshops, some creation workshops, creative moments. So here you see like 15 people who worked around the signage of the space. And so they propose some design collective moments. They propose ideas. We discussed about them, and after we create them in real life. So here we made a lot of serigraphy workshops with friends who help us to do that. And we also a very important part of the project is to use reused materials. So materials from the factory we dismantled and we used again, like here for signage, for example, or use or works with reused material from the territory. So we started a big project to map the territory and to find all the materials available around that we can use for the projects. So here it's an example of ceramic tiles we created with local inhabitants in order to build a big kitchen, a collective kitchen for everyone. Here is some big metal stuff we dismantled and we transformed them into tables. So furniture for everyone in order to again create some moments. And here it's the main door of the new door of the factory. So we made from also from reused materials. So here we made this during training sessions with youngsters. And how we want to today to say that the reused materials are the identity of the space. So for us, it's very important today to do projects and to create some new spaces with reused materials only. So here you can see a photo of these new spaces. So as you see, it's not finished because we don't want to finish them. It's an infinite workshop construction, infinite. It's never finished. And we like also this idea that a place is never finished and you still have to do stuff inside to transform it and to change uses and to propose new ideas for the space. Here it's inside of the space after transformations. And after 3 years of doing these little workshops, little by little, we succeeded to create big events also for the territory. So inviting a lot of people for various moments of exchange, for shows, for expositions, for various uses. So now a lot of people from the territory are interested into the project and wants to gather the local community around the project. And so we succeed to find another budget in order to continue to transform the factory more widely. So again, we take our architect hat and we draw some plans in order to have a legal transformation for the place. So we are trying to also gather the local community and inhabitants around these typical architecture work, but it's very difficult because it's very technical, but we try to create some moments to explain to people what we are doing as an architect. And finally, after 3 years, we had the chance to invite the local School of Architecture nearby. So 30 minutes away, there is a big School of Architectures. And we used to bring 50 students for 2 weeks workshops with their professors. And they were very happy because they were discovering this space. They were outside the school and they were dealing as a future architects with a real project, with real people for real needs. And these moments was very important for us, but because it gives us the idea to create a big project that I want to talk about right now very, very quickly, called a School of Commons. So basically, a School of Commons is how you can put around a table and around a concrete project, School of Architectures, local communities, around a real project of transformation of a space and collectives of architects working with everybody, and how these three entities works together and benefits each other from the work of each other. So we started this project 1 year ago, and now it's funded by Europe, and we add to find other people doing this kind of stuff of projects in Europe. So we had the chance to find a place in Italy and a place in Greece. So for example, in Italy, there is a local association working on the transformation of an old building in a little village in the south of Italy. They are working with the University of Torino, but they are also working with a collective of architects, Italian architects called Orizzontale. So here we have the three partners, and we have the same in Greece. And so we want to develop this idea of how we can learn differently in School of Architectures, how we can put inside the School of Architectures more political actions and more activism, and because the students are the next and the future architects, and they need to be more politicized and more aware about the current issues. And we have a very global crisis right now, and we need some new ideas and alternative solutions. So here you have all the three spaces inside the School of Common project. And for us, it's also for Collectif ETC, it was an important step, because we started in France. We want now to develop a network in Europe with these new people. So for us, it's very important to have to extend the network, and to not just work in France, but also understand the problematics and the issues in Italy, in Spain, in England, in Germany, and to gather also all the collectives of architects from these countries, but also meet local communities from these countries, and to understand their issues. And we saw that the issues are the same. It's the same problems for everyone. So for us, it's very important to extend our work from France to Europe and to maybe another part of the globe. But still, we want to create this big network, and we continue to struggle, and it's very difficult, but we are very happy. We are very free, and I hope we will continue for years. So thank you for invited me. I hope it was not too long, and if you have some questions, be my guest. Thank you.
Max, muchísimas gracias. La verdad que creo que mostraste un material increíble de proyectos, muchos que creo que se van como entrelazando, ¿no? Parecería como que la producción que tienen de trabajos, digamos como que paso a paso va como acumulando, como entiendo yo, experiencias de proyecto a proyecto. Y en ese sentido, creo que hay algunas preguntas que estaría bueno como intentar intercambiar, ¿no? A mí hay una cosa que me pareció como súper sorprendente, es la consideración del tiempo en los proyectos, esto de que en realidad la idea de la arquitectura es que nunca esté terminada, como ese afán siempre de que siempre haya algo como para poder seguir como transformando dentro de los espacios que construimos, pero no solo transformando desde nosotros mismos, sino transformándolos con otras personas. Y eso nos está corriendo un poco como de un lugar, ¿no? Como de una visión, digamos, como una práctica espacial que en realidad todo lo contrario, ¿no? Que fotografía, digamos, antes de que ingresen las personas a los espacios, intenta sacar sus fotos pertenecientes como a la disciplina, ¿no? Más terminadas, acabadas, brillosas y como con unas condiciones de belleza, por lo menos que podríamos empezar a interpelar en ese sentido. Y creo que esta idea del tiempo, o de esto de que surgen nuevas ideas a medida que se van transformando los espacios, es como una cosa como de, que vos decías, como sin fin, ¿no? De seguir evolucionando, digamos. Entonces la pregunta es un poco qué tan importante consideran ustedes en los proyectos, que es como esa evolución del tiempo y cómo trabajan, cómo lo organizan, digamos, ese tiempo, ¿no? Cómo gestionan el tiempo entre los deseos, me imagino, entre los deseos de las comunidades con las cuales trabajan y entre los deseos de ustedes y los otros actores que en definitiva en algún momento, por ejemplo en el último proyecto, contabas que terminaban financiando parte de estas ideas, ¿no? Entonces, creo que el tema del tiempo en la arquitectura es algo que no se enseña demasiado, que se habla bastante poco, digamos que en algún momento la arquitectura lo tuvo, pongamos en la segunda etapa del siglo XX, los años 60 y 70, que parecería que el tiempo era parte del juego del proyecto, pero que lo vemos un poco como abandonado y es una materia de proyecto, ¿no? Entonces, preguntarte un poco cómo ustedes trabajan con eso y cómo lo consideran.
Thank you very much for this question. It's very interesting. Time, as you said, is for us, it's more important than the budget, more important than everything. Because when we started with projects which last 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks we had to change and to go on another project. And after doing this for 3 or 4 years, we understand that if you want to, as an architect, if you want to be in a project with a local community, you need to deal with the time, and you are obliged to deal with this component. So yes, after 5 years of practice, we said, okay, time is very important. So as a professional, we need time for our project. So that's why we decided to settle in one place after a nomadic life. And we choose to settle in one space. And we said, okay, now we have 5 years to transform a place, to test things inside, and to invite people inside. Because 5 years, we thought in 5 years we can, for sure, we will find a way to create something very nice. But at the end of these 5 years, we only start something. And when we left this space after 5 years, and we just started something, and we have to left after 5 years. So yes, time is very important, and it's also very difficult because 5 years is, for us, it's huge. It can happen a lot of stuff inside the life in 5 years. Some studios are created and died in 5 years, but yes, it's very difficult for us because, as I said, we didn't have a long-term vision in Collectif ETC. We have like 6 months economy, so maybe in 6 months Collectif ETC is dead. But we want to believe that we will be here with people, with the local community, and the energy of the people, the energy of the inhabitants and the local community give us the energy to continue and to believe. And I think it's very important now in our project to work with local community. If there is not a local community, now it's very difficult for us to work with public spaces project or the transformation of abandoned buildings.
Totalmente. Y otra cosa que también como que quedó un poquito replicando, creo, en la charla, es un poco este último proyecto que mostrabas, que era como la escuela de los comunes, entiendo que se puede traducir, School of Commons, y que en realidad me gustó mucho porque en realidad convocaba, ¿no? Como sin duda a la comunidad, también a las escuelas de arquitectura y sobre todo a los colectivos de arquitectos. Y en ese sentido me sorprendió un poco porque en realidad creo que como que apuntan, digamos, como una práctica de la arquitectura que no es demasiado autoral, sino que trabajan como en conjunto, varios arquitectos que están trabajando en conjunto, y que creo que es una práctica contemporánea, digamos, no solo en Europa, en muchos lugares, pero creo que sobre todo en Europa esto ha sido replicado como en varios países. Entiendo de que en Francia también eso sucede. Tenemos, digamos, también amigos colectivos que están en Alemania, que están en España, que también están como por Italia. Y entonces la pregunta es un poco, ¿cómo modifica un poco esa práctica espacial o esos proyectos cuando en realidad están considerando que lo están trabajando con un equipo de gente que es diversa, ¿no? Y que tiene como distintos intereses, y un poco como eso se traduce, digamos, a los proyectos, si es que en realidad trabajan, digamos, cada uno como en una parte como del proyecto dentro del colectivo, o si simplemente todos avanzan, digamos, a medida que los temas como que van surgiendo, a medida que avanza el proyecto, ¿no?
It's a very, very, very difficult process. For example, like in France, in the project I showed to you, Place des Possibles, we invited Horizontale, which is a collective of architects from Italy, and there are 6 architects. And we also invited Zulorc, which is a Spain collective of architects, and there are 6. And we started a discussion about the workshop we will have to do at the end of the year. What as architects we have to do, and what ideas we want to experiment inside this project. And at the end we were like 25, around 20 architects, I think, around the table, talking about ideas. And it can be scary, but after 10 or 15 years of practice, of collective practice, of course, at first, it's very difficult, because at school, we learn to be an architect, individual architect with artistic ideas, with ideas from my experience, and it's me, I have my idea, and it's like this. And in collective of architects, you learn to share, you learn to say, okay, my idea is not very good, but your idea is more interesting. And after 10 or 15 years of doing that, when a collective meet another collective and another collective, it's easy, because everybody has the tools and know how to deal with this complexity. So if it was 15 years ago with 25 people around the table, 25 architects, we will kill each other for sure. But now we have the tools. We working with little teams. We make some presentation, and we be back in little teams. We make a lot of discussions, and it's again about time. You need time to work in teams. So, for example, we spend 3 days just to speak about 1 week workshops. So it was at the end we were dead, but it was intense. And I think, in my point of view, that this workshop will be the best workshop we will never make, because 20 people talk about it, give their ideas, and we succeed at the end to have one proposition, but one strong proposition.
Bueno, Max, te queremos agradecer muchísimo tu intervención en el festival. Pienso que hay como algunas experiencias que se empiezan como a amplificar. Vos hablabas muchísimo de redes, de cruzar, digamos, como distintos colectivos que estaban trabajando. Nosotros por acá estamos un poco intentando hacer eso, llamando, digamos, en este caso son unos 13 invitados internacionales como de diversas disciplinas. Y realmente creo que hay como proyectos en común, o por lo menos hay como, digamos, ciertas esperanzas, o no sé cómo llamarlo, ciertas luces que andan por ahí, que son conversaciones paralelas de cosas que andan pasando y que a nosotros nos interesan mucho, y que en este caso para la Usina de Innovación Colectiva, el tener a un colectivo como ETC digamos, y poder conocer un poco más a fondo sus trabajos es un placer que por suerte nos podemos dar organizando este tipo de festivales. Entonces, agradecerle mucho a todo el colectivo, agradecerte a vos, y bueno, me imagino que seguiremos en contacto, y ojalá puedan venir al próximo festival, o podamos pensar juntos nuevas transformaciones, digamos, para nuestros espacios, ¿no? Así que un abrazo muy grande desde Montevideo y nos estaremos viendo muy pronto.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Chao, bye.